Right, this may be a late upload, but I feel like it's now a good time that I want to talk about. So, I want to talk about my experience at the Nintendo Switch 2 experience at London. So, essentially I went to this event. I made a short upload about it, just giving like a very short summary of what I thought about the event. And the whole event was amazing. Like the staff were amazing. They were very supportive and very very enthusiastic. Like every single corridor I went to, they were always giving like a cheering vibe every single time, every single place you're going at. They were always clapping every single time new crowds were coming in, and it was great. Like it was probably like more. They were probably cheering you more often than say you were going to turn up and watch the Minecraft movie, where kids will somehow be cheering and clapping or throwing popcorn at every single meme that was played in that film. It was like every single new crowd came into that event. It was always like constant cheering, which is great to see. But the whole event was really good, and I kind of want to give a real discussion of what I think about the Switch 2 and whether this is a upgrade from the Nintendo Switch, from giving my first hands of trying it. And I think the answer to that question is very obvious. Yes, it is worth the upgrade. I was actually kind of surprised with trying it for the first time to actually see whether the improvements did seem genuine, but it was all really impressive. So I think the highlights, especially with the Switch 2, is essentially the performance upgrade from the Switch. So especially in handheld. So now in handheld mode, you can now use it, play it at 1080p at 120 hertz or FPS, and it's all variable refresh rate. So it's very good that now you're able to get a more smoother experience with the Switch 2, and even the 1080p display, even despite it being bigger, it's a much better resolution. The contrast is better. I was also surprised about the fact it's still using an LCD display that was on the first Switch, because obviously the last Nintendo Switch model, which was the Switch OLED, had an OLED display. So reverting back to an LCD did seem questionable. But when I was trying it, it didn't really feel very different. Like the color, the colors were still vibrant. The screen was still very bright, and realistically, even it has HDR as well. I still felt like a lot of those features still made up for it. Now, I think in handheld mode, it's definitely a much better experience than the first Switch. Like I still remember like the first Switch display. The colors were very washed out. It wasn't very bright. But now trying to Switch 2, even still having the same LCD display, it's a much better experience. And I definitely wouldn't think people will look at it as a downgrade at all. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the Joy-Cons, mostly around the features of it using it as a mouse. So, obviously, a lot of the videos showed that you can now use the Joy-Cons as a mouse. And I think from my experience, I've got a lot of positives to say about it. It definitely replicates a mouse very well. It's very sensitive to a lot of the games you would play. My favorite experience from using the Joy-Con as a mouse was Metroid Prime 4. I really, really liked it. And I did try other games like Welcome Tour and Dragon Drive. So Welcome Tour was like a mini game where you would have, I think you would have like a spaceship and you were trying to avoid spike balls and you would do challenges. And then Dragon Drive was like using the two Joy-Cons as a wheelchair and then also shooting. And those features were very, very good. But I think Metroid Prime 4 was definitely the best experience. Now, if I had to kind of give a negative about it, I do feel like they're not the most ergonomic way of using it as a mouse. And like at times after a while, I will say I did get like a little bit of strain on my wrist by using the Joy-Con as a mouse. Because obviously it's not an actual mouse and it doesn't have like the ergonomic feel of it. But in terms of its sensitivity and the way and the use of its controls, it replicates it very well. And I will be interesting to see like how many games will support this in the near future. Also, other things I was also able to try. When it came for me to play Donkey Kong Bonanza, I was able to try it with the Pro Controller. And I personally think that Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller is probably my ideal way of playing it. Obviously, I'm more used to playing controllers on consoles, like on my Xbox and PlayStation. I mean, I did like the new Joy-Cons. It felt much better. I did try the new Joy-Con when I was playing, obviously, Mario Kart World. Mostly the mouse support features were mostly Welcome Tour, Metroid Prime 4, and Dragon Drive. But when it came to playing Donkey Kong Bonanza with a Pro Controller, I felt that was definitely the more ideal playing experience. Now, I think a lot of these games are going to be very adaptable for multiple ways of how you're going to play these games. I think this, obviously, with the original Switch, it was able to do that. But I would say the Pro Controller was definitely the best experience. My only criticism about it, it's £75 retail. Crazy. I don't know what times we're living in that thinks that some people could just easily afford £75 for a controller. You could pay like £50 to £60 for an Xbox controller. I don't know why Nintendo has to charge £75 for a Pro controller, which is probably like my only real criticism, is just how expensive it is. Now, the last point I really want to touch upon is, I think a lot of people have been making this a discussion around it, is the price of the Switch 2. And yes, it's very expensive. So obviously it's £400 to buy the Switch 2, £430 with Mario Kart World. And then on top of that, you have to pay for the games, which are around £60 to £70. If you buy them digital, physical is going to cost more. Also, like the accessories, like the Switch 2 Pro controllers, like £75 retail, like I said earlier, expensive. And then a lot of the features of the Switch 2, like game chat and a lot of the classic emulation that you could play on the Switch 2, like games from now, they've included GameCube games, but also like consoles prior, are all part of a paid subscription service. So there is always an added cost when it comes to accessing a lot of the features that the Switch 2 will provide. And yes, it's very expensive. And I think for a lot of people, it's going to be a little bit of a kick in the teeth, and probably people are going to, criticize Nintendo for that, for their pricing strategy. Personally, I think they should really find a better way of actually getting more people into the Switch 2 by adding more incentives. Like, for me personally, I think they should have really bundled Welcome Tour as a game that people could try as a demo game for the Switch 2. That's something that you're going to have to get separately. I think personally, Welcome Tour should have been bundled with it. If you think of like the Nintendo Wii, for example, when they always bundle Wii Sports, it was always like an incentive like people to get to playing games. And I feel like Nintendo did make a mistake not to do that for the Switch 2. And I do think it is a bit silly and ridiculous that Nintendo aren't including game chat as a standard, and they have to like put this under the paywall under their subscription service to access it. I think game chat really should be a universal thing, really should be a feature that you shouldn't have to be charging for. I don't know why they have to include their game chat system as part of their subscription service. So there are like some criticisms where I will have to put out with the pricing strategy, as well as their direction of how they're charging everything for the Switch 2. But overall, I will state this, the whole event was really, really good, and really playing the Switch 2 was a very good experience. I definitely think the Switch 2 is a definite upgrade over the Switch from trying it. It's definitely a better quality product, especially now the Joy-Cons connect magnetically to the device. And yeah, a lot of the features that it has, I think is worth the upgrade. I really do think Nintendo should really think about their pricing strategy of how they're charging for a lot of things. But I guess even still, like probably the most loyal customers and probably fans of gaming who get the Switch 2 will probably still pay for it anyway. But I do think Nintendo should really incentivize of trying to make it more of a, I wouldn't say affordable because nothing is ever cheap, but actually try and get some like deals and ways that people could get hooked onto actually getting the Nintendo Switch 2. But it's bad economic times people live in nowadays. Now, I've already made my pre-order for the Switch 2, so I will be getting it. It was very difficult to get. Like nowadays, it's always like seems that trying to get a pre-order is like trying to find gold dust these days. If you're lucky enough, a scalper's not going to get there first. But I've made my pre-order, secured it, so hopefully by launch day I will be able to get it and try it out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Yeah, if you've tried the Switch 2 or you have any thoughts about the Switch 2, please put your thoughts down in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't already, please like, comment, subscribe. Dislike if you want to dislike. Thank you for watching. And yeah, that's about it. See you later.